Hi boys and girls, so today we're going to focus on two subheadings in your textbook, okay, in social studies regarding the end of the buffalo in Texas and also the Indian Wars, being that this whole unit is about conflict with the American Indians. We're going to focus specifically on how that conflict influenced the end of the buffalo and the way Texas changed. So let's go over our content objectives real fast. So our first objective is that students will identify the purpose and outcomes of the Treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek by using text evidence to support their answers, okay? So you know that we're gonna be talking about the Treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek, and we're gonna look in the book and see where it tells us exactly what the purpose of that was, and then what was the result of it, what was the outcome of that. Also, students will distinguish between the Anglo-American buffalo hunters and the American Indian buffalo hunters. So we're going to compare these two types of buffalo hunters. How were they the same? How were they different? Okay. And then students will examine the impact that the loss of the buffalo had on Texas. So we're going to, in our book, they'll tell us a little bit about that, and then we're going to further examine and see if we can come up with any other repercussions that it may have had. Okay. Now our language objectives are students will predict the content of the subtitled sections, Conflict on the Frontier and End of the Buffalo Days. Now we talk about that all of the time in reading. Whenever we begin reading a story, we always make a prediction on what it's going to be about, either based off of the pictures that we see or based off of the title. So we're going to be making predictions based off of the subtitles and the text that we see in our textbook before we even start reading. Okay? And then students will write and retell the purpose and outcomes of the Treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek by identifying the text evidence and summarizing it to their partner. So just like that content objective that we read about with the Treaty of Medicine Lodge Creek, the objective was that you're going to understand the purpose and outcomes, and you're going to be able to show me that you understood the purpose and outcomes of that treaty by summarizing that information and telling your partner about it, okay? Students will compare and contrast the American Indian buffalo hunter using a Venn diagram. So a Venn diagram is a graphic organizer we're going to use to compare those two types of buffalo hunters that we talked about that you're going to learn in your content objectives. And then students will write a caption to the picture on page 260 explaining how the image shows the destruction of the buffalo, okay? So you're going to write your own caption to a picture, just like when you look in a book and there's a picture and then it tells you at the bottom what that picture is showing. That picture doesn't have that, so you're going to write it for them, okay? So there's lots of things to do and lots of ways to learn, okay? Really quick before we start, I'm just going to quickly go over some vocabulary. You don't need to remember all of the vocabulary words right now, but when you're reading, I want you to know that if you forgot what a word means, to look up here. And remember that might have been one of the vocabulary words that's posted, and look up here for just a quick refresher of what it means, okay? So a fort is a strongly constructed building used to house soldiers and weapons. So soldiers and weapons are all inside of this building. It's called a fort to protect them. Buffalo soldiers are African American soldiers who fought against the Plains Indians in the 1800s. Indian Territory is land that was set aside as territory for the American Indians in 1830. The word defeat means to win a victory over somebody. And the word settlers means people who move in a group to live in a new country or area. So we had lots of settlers to Texas, and so that's part of what we're going to talk about here. So we're going to just get started with you telling me, we have these two titled subsections. So if you open your book up, or you have it open in front of you and you see the subsection, Conflict on the Frontier, okay, with what we've been reading about with Texas after the Civil War. Can anybody tell me what they already know about conflict on the frontier? Okay, we know that the settlers and the American Indians had some conflict, right? What does the word conflict mean? they had some disagreements. Okay, so we know that settlers and American Indians had some disagreements. And sometimes those disagreements got violent, right? Okay, so that's good job. That's one thing that we do know. We know that there were some there was conflict. That's why the subtitle is called conflict. There was conflict between those two groups of people. The new people settling Texas. Remember, settlers is one of our vocabulary words, and then the American Indians who had already been there, who were already living there. Okay, so now I want you to think, do you have any questions? Is there anything that you would like to learn or anything that you want to know about the conflict on the frontier as we're talking about here between the American Indians and the settlers? Okay, so for example, I would like to know, how is the conflict solved, right? Every fight hopefully has a resolution, so I want to know how the conflict was solved. So I'm going to write that up here. How is the conflict solved? Okay, so what I want you to do is in groups of two with your partners, I want you to think about, tell each other if you have any questions that you'd like to, that you have, any questions that you have about the conflict on the frontier. Okay, so who would like to share a question with me? Okay, all right, you would like to know who was more aggressive in the fight? Okay, all right. Okay, you would like to know why there were fights? Why were they fighting? Anything else? Okay, you would like to know, are people still fighting today? Okay. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to only read that first paragraph of Conflict on the Frontier with your partner. Okay, read that first paragraph of Conflict on the Frontier, and then we're going to share what we learned. Don't read past that first paragraph, okay? Just read that first paragraph, and then when you're finished, I want you to just put your thumbs up.